Hello everyone, my name is Eduardo. I'm a Senior Partner Solutions Architect with AWS, and today I have here with me Anson. Hello Anson.
Hi, Eduardo. I'm Anson Kokat, Product Manager for watsonx.data at IBM.
So Anson, we see today a lot of customers building modern analytics applications, artificial intelligence, generative AI applications, and we know that what is very important for application is to have data with quality, right?
Absolutely.
We also see a lot of AWS customers, and they have a lot of data sitting on the mainframe, right? Now, how relevant is mainframe data today, and how can these customers use their mainframe data on AWS?
So you'd be surprised, Eduardo, at the amount of data that's sitting on the mainframe today. If you look at worldwide customers, IBM mainframes still run about 70% of the world's transactions by value. Even, if you look at the banks, 77 of the world's 100 banks use an IBM mainframe today. So very much relevant, very much important part of our data world as that we're talking about today.
And why do these customers care about moving mainframe data to an AI and other analytics environments?
Yeah. I mean, think of the mainframe data as, sitting in the mainframe, but they want to unlock that data for other analytical purposes, right? So basically exposing that data sitting on the IBM Z platform and moving it or being able to use it with other modern type platforms, things like a data lakehouse, as an example. Okay. As well, some of the advantages, when data is sitting on the mainframe, it does tend to get very expensive. We use this concept of MIPS on the mainframe, which are like, think of it as processing power on the mainframe. And you can reduce these MIPS, right, by not having to deal with DB2 replication or third-party tools that have to work with data sitting on the mainframe. And then it provides a mechanism for companies to rethink analytics, right? Just, these new Gen AI applications getting into Gen AI, it exposes your mainframe data into the new Gen AI world.
And Anson, what business problems are we solving by moving data from the mainframe to Apache Iceberg tables, for example?
Most customers today, the way they are moving data from the mainframe into these other analytical environments, but they're spending a lot of cycles, a lot of effort, very difficult pipelines they've created to get data off of the mainframe into these other analytical environments. And when they're doing that, customers are typically moving to the cloud, some type of cloud database. That's where they want to move to. And when they want to do that, they're not spending the money that they're spending on the cloud today. They're spending about 75% of that cost is just writing workloads from the mainframe into these cloud environments.
What is the technical value of storing mainframe data in watsonx.data?
Yeah. So the technology that we've come up with, the combination of DataGate and watsonx.data allows you to store one copy of the data. You're not creating a copy of that data and replicating it. This is creating a replicated copy. And it's writing the data in an open data format. Iceberg is the open data format. You may have heard of Iceberg. It's a common format that a lot of database vendors are adopting today. And it allows you to take your mainframe data and take a replicated copy of that in Iceberg format. Once it's there, it's pretty much open, right? Any analytical engine, since it's an open table format, the key operative word here is open. Other analytical warehouses can read that data, right? They can write queries on that data. Even in watsonx.data, we use Presto and Spark. You can use AWS Athena. You can use AWS tools to access that data sitting on AWS S3 storage. A lot of the, Iceberg itself is an open source technology, but even the technology that we use to read and write the query engines are open source as well. Things like Presto, things like Spark. Hive is the metadata store that we use to interact with that data. All these are open source components that we've packaged up and we provide full support for you in a data lakehouse type environment. When we're talking about mainframe as well, we also have these, I'll call them like antique formats, like VSAM and IMS formats. These are specialized formats that are really hard to get to today, right? And so with this technology, we are able to access even these VSAM and IMS formats and put that into an Iceberg format as well. So some really cool technology that we've built where you can see on the diagram here, right? The data we're actually writing into is Amazon S3, into an S3 object storage format. But what can act on that is, it can be Presto, it can be Spark, can be AWS Athena. It opens up the customer's aperture to be, to choose what they want.
And customers, they typically like to have also the applications that are manipulating their data close to the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we see here from the IBM software stack with components like, as we see in the diagram, like DataGate and watsonx.data, these are all available on AWS, and customers can deploy these components on Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS. They can deploy it with Cloud Pak for Data, or in some cases, like watsonx.data is also available as a fully managed SaaS solution,
Absolutely.
correct?
Yeah.
And they can mix and match and combine these different offers from IBM to build this pipeline, right?
Absolutely. It's the customer's choice where they want to run it. If they want to be completely hands-off, yeah, absolutely, they can run this as a managed service where IBM will manage it for them. Or if they want to do some combination, like you said, they have that capability as well. So it's really the customer choice.
Now, what is the financial value of storing mainframe data in watsonx.data running on AWS?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's reducing these data ingestion costs. I talked about 60 to 70% of what people are doing in the cloud today is mostly writing. This reduces those data ingestion costs. It also eliminates legacy data lakehouses, data lakes, data warehouses, and these replication solutions that people may have enacted to move data from the mainframe to these other warehouses, right? This is a much simpler, almost near real-time solution to replicate data from the mainframe into these other analytical environments. And like they talk about the processing power on the mainframe, the MIPS, you can reduce the amount of MIPS that are utilized on the mainframe as well. Again, a lot of cost savings that the end customer will get by using this technology.
What is the technology behind moving the mainframe data to Apache Iceberg format?
The actual technology is a combination of watsonx.data plus IBM DataGate for watsonx. These two things work in conjunction together. If I can go back and just show you on the diagram here, the DataGate component allows you to replicate data from the mainframe into Iceberg format. And once it's in Iceberg format, you can use whatever query engine you want on top of that data. Okay. But this is what customers are doing today, right? This is the current picture that customers have to work with today. They have kind of this big mess of ETL jobs, Kafka, batch jobs. They've created this on their own. And you can imagine, it's probably one person or a very small team that's put this together. If a new version of Kafka comes out or a new ETL thing comes out, I have to fix all these things myself, right? So why go through all that burden? Let IBM kind of do that for you. Think of IBM as the watsonx.data as the easy button to, remove all of this extra stuff that you have to do, to remove all of that and make it simpler with just watsonx.data, right? Watsonx.data is the easy button to take all of that complicated replication process, and watsonx.data and DataGate can do that all that for itself, and then put that data in an open Iceberg format. And another thing to keep in mind, open Iceberg formats, once it's there, it is completely open, right? So if you want to move that data into other analytical environments, you are free to do that. That's your data. You have control over what you want to do that, what analytics engine you want to
As in the previous example where you're also using Athena and AWS Glue data catalog, right?
That's right.
You can also use those to query data for different use cases that you might have that you're using AWS services combined with IBM watsonx.data, right?
This really puts the customer in control, right? They're not locked into their whatever proprietary format.
Right.
Putting data in Iceberg format means I own the data. I get to decide. And if tomorrow I want to move to another analytical solution, it's my data. I can move that very easily.
And that's the whole advantage. watsonx.data really becomes this centralized repository for all your data where you connect to a single location. So you have a single panel of glass to see your data connections. And I suppose you can also do data governance, control who has access to data, what can be used for.
That is the whole data lakehouse concept, is the idea that I may have data sources from all these different sources, but I want to have a single version of the truth. So watsonx.data, think of it as a data lakehouse, but it's also a data lakehouse that powers generative AI, right? Is the underpinning of what you want to do with your Gen AI projects.
Then you even have the Milvus capability in there, right? So if you want to create embeddings with your data, right, for your Gen AI use cases, for RAG patterns, you
inside can also of watsonx.data, along with Presto and Spark, which are query engines, we also have the Milvus vector database, which allows you to create RAG use case patterns and etc.
IBM watsonx.data is available on the AWS Marketplace, both as a fully managed SaaS offer by IBM And it's also available as a self-hosted solution that you can deploy on your own AWS account using Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS. So, Anson, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you very much,
it.
Eduardo.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Bye.